There's me running around the studio. Which camera? Where are we going? Okay, I'll stand here now. That's what I'll do. I'll stand up and walk. Okay, so we are now going to go back to the Union buildings now. In fact, I was actually just greeting our guest that's come into studio, Eugene Khoza, so please stay tuned for that. Looking really forward to the conversation with him in a short while. But right now, let's go back to the Union building. That's where Ayanda is broadcasting from, and she's talking Women's Month and the plans that government has for this month. Ayanda, it's over to you.
Good morning once again to you, Liam. Now, this is one of my favorite parts of broadcasting. So we take a look at the generational mix. A woman who was at the forefront of the 1956 Women's March is Mama Sophia De Bruyn. She joins us now, along with someone who's doing her own bit for the advancement of women's issues in 2015. Panashe Chigumadzi, she's here. She's an author, and she's also a member of feminist Stokvel. So we have a little bit of a then and now to move South Africa forward. A very good morning to you, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us. Mama Sophie, it's always a pleasure to have you with us, and I never get enough of hearing some of those rich stories that you share with us on that day when you all decided, 20,000 strong women, to take a stand. How many years now later? Is it almost 60? Next year it will be 60 years later. 59 this year, yes.
And next year it will be 60 years.
What do you make of the journey that women in South Africa have taken when it comes to socioeconomic issues?
It's been a slow journey in the beginning and a painful one, but it got better in 1994 when we were recognized as equals in our constitution. And from then onwards it became easier to the point where we're standing here today with young women like this and yourselves, where you are beautifully doing your own thing. And we are so proud of all of you young women for where you are today. And that long journey that we took was not in vain.
Indeed, and your work has not stopped, because I know you're still involved in social advocacy issues and also social cohesion. Speak to us about the work that you're doing.
I do a number of things, and I've tried to tone down a little bit, but it's still not easy, and so I carry on, I shoulder on. I sit on a number of structures, and I'm also a member of the NEC Women's League. I think you know about that. And I sit on different committees. And I'm also part of the social cohesion and nation building structure. And of course, I'm spending a little bit more time with my own family, which they've been denied, and I've denied myself to them for so long that sometimes you become very guilty when you look at them as if they just grew up by themselves. But there are grandchildren now, and I enjoy them.
And we appreciate your family as well for lending you to us because there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into that. And speaking of sacrifice, Panashe, you and I were joking a bit earlier. You said, when you stand next to someone like Mama Sophia De Bruyn, you don't know what to say, because of the work that she did. You and I can do what we do. You being an author, you being involved in women's advocacy groups, feminist Stokvel. Speak to us a little bit about the history that South Africa has for women and why you've decided to take up the causes that you have.
I think, of course, the reason why we're standing here today is because of Mama Sophia De Bruyn and the women who fought with her. And you literally don't know what to say when you're standing here, because there's so much, that they have done. The reason why I can say I want to speak about patriarchy and ending sexism is because they've paved the way for us. And as we go on, the struggles do then advance over time to say, I think often what you find in time is that, we'll say that feminism, for example, is not something that you traditionally could speak about. You always had to find ways to position yourself because, for example, we're at the point where in 1994, as she's saying, they secured the right for us to be, at least formally. Now the job for us as young people is to say, right, we've got the formal entrenchment of women's rights and women's equality, but how do we actually understand and, dismantle the patriarchy? Because it's all, it's just a lot of the issues we face in South Africa. We've got the formal equality, but do we actually have the fundamental changes culturally, socially, economically? That's really the hard work now, because you don't have something to point to specifically. But we're here and we have the space to even speak about that, because we have the likes of Mama Sophia de Bruyn who did this for us.
So you've spoken about the fact that when it comes to legislation, we're almost second to none, but the implementation on the ground is still quite problematic. What sort of other socioeconomic issues do you think are at the forefront of the struggles of the women in 2015?
Well, I think as feminists, we'll always say the personal is political. So you cannot separate what happens in the home from what happens in legislature. So whether it's things like gender-based violence, whether it's things like, very patriarchal gender roles as well, who does what in the household, it's very important, because we know that the majority of domestic work will remain for women who yet are still breadwinners in the household. So that affects, a lot of things economically. What about young girl children as well? There's so many of those different things that we have to talk about culturally. What are women allowed to do? What can't they do? Gender-based violence is a big proportion or aspect about that, because we haven't changed our culture and attitude towards women as well.
We'll have to leave it there. I'm afraid we have run out of time, but these are issues that you cannot exhaust in about 5 minutes of broadcasting. But we're hoping to take a closer look at each and every one of those issues that have been highlighted throughout the month of August and beyond. I know Panashe's book is coming out, so we'll have her back on Morning Live shortly to discuss that. Much Ado About Women, and also the romantic aspect of it, and finances. So you'll be quite surprised about that from Mama Sophia de Bruyn, and the work that she continues to do in social cohesion will also be something that we look at, especially in the build-up to the 60-year anniversary of that iconic Women's March back in 1956. But for now, it's goodbye. God bless. Thank you ever so much for having joined us from our broadcast. We wrap it up and say thank you for watching. It's back to you in studio after this short ad break.